Okay, so we're gonna get going on the rear hatch. Now, if you have a Model 3 or Y Performance that has these rear spoilers, you'll wanna remove the rear spoiler before you do the PPF install. These spoilers get installed by hand at the factory, and they're never installed in the exact same spot, which is why the pre-cut patterns do not allow for these spoilers. So to remove these, it's very easy. You just take some fishing line, run some fishing line behind it. On one side, there's two clips that hold them on with the two-sided tape, roughly about right over here. So I've already gone over to the driver's side. I've taken the fishing line to remove the two-sided tape. All you do then, you just pull the spoiler back, and it just pops off really, really easy. Now, before I pop it off completely, these spoilers, when you put them back on, they line up with the corner of this brake light, both sides. So that's how you do that. So once that's off, we just got to remove this little bit of two-sided tape, and then you just remove these clips that are on here. So those are just held on with two-sided tape. So these spoilers, there's really nothing to it removing these things. So let's start the rear hatch. I'm going to start the top piece. So create our dry spot. Just gonna stick that there. Okay, so I should probably mention it, when you are doing the rear hatch, it's a 3-piece pattern. Piece number 1 is going to be this top piece. Second piece is the middle piece. Third piece is this bottom piece. So, got the film on. I'm just going to get everything soaked with slip solution, just like so. Okay, so this pattern does provide a wrapped edge to wrap around the top part of the hatch, in behind the glass, and then behind this trim over here. So I'm going to start up over here. Just like so. I'm going to get that down. Okay, if you want to come to the other side of me. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is, you see how this film runs right along this, I call it the fin. See how it runs right across there? All we're going to do now is we're going to kind of stretch the film into place right over here. Just like so. That's good. Now, I'm going to get some tack solution in here, and we're going to get this into place where this needs to be. That's what we want. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the other side. Actually, we're going to come right over here to the middle. And this can get a little bit tricky. I just want to make sure that, you know what, we'll come over here. Actually, I have a piece of contamination right there. Gone. That's good. Now, if you want to come around to my other side, what we're going to do get that tacked in place right there. Just like so. Now we'll come back over here and this PPF is supposed to kind of come over halfway over this fin. So got a little bit of tack solution there. Just gonna pull it into place just like that. There we go. That's one. Now we'll come over here and we'll do the exact same thing. Got some tack solution. If you have a performance model, this is going to be pretty good because when you put the spoiler back on, it's actually going to hide this seam. Just get some more tack underneath here. There we go. Do a little bit right over here as well. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to get this seam down first. There we go. Now everything else is going to be pushed out right by the glass. So I'm going to keep that squeegee angle nice and flat. These fingers over here, nothing really to worry about. They're going to pop up and they're going to disappear and come back. Just hit that with a bit of tack solution. Come back at those from a couple different angles. Okay, before we get carried away over there, I'm just going to get rid of everything else over here. There we go. That's good. There we go. For now, that's going to be good. Okay, same thing I did on the other side. Just gonna flush this all out with tack solution. Just like so. There we go. Okay. Now that we have this top part done, we can then cut, and we're gonna go and get the middle piece, and we're gonna do that next. Okay, so now we're gonna start installing this middle piece for the rear hatch. Now I'm just gonna take my slip solution, spray the surface down. There we go. Now I'm gonna create a dry spot over here. Stick that down right there. It doesn't have to be perfect or in the perfect place. You just need it in place just so you can roll the film on. Ooh. You kind of want to be careful when you're doing what I just did. You want to be careful that the film does not slide off the vehicle. That sucks. Luckily I caught it. Okay, now that I got the film back rolled into place, I'm just going to go over something here. If you have ordered a clear paint protection film wrap or a matte wrap from us and you said you wanted your badges cut out, you would be starting over here at the Tesla emblem. That would be your first place to start. You would get that down. But because I don't want to have any gloss showing on this vehicle, I decided to delete the Tesla badge and delete the dual motor badge off the lower rear hatch. So we need to find a new place to start. So where this piece gets tricky is we need to line this seam up over here. Thankfully, because it's a performance, this seam will get hidden with the spoiler, or at least most of it will be. But where we're going to start is we're going to start right over here on the end. So for lining up the seam, you want to have a lot of slip solution in place. This can be a pretty tedious piece to install. Now, what you're going to want to do is you see this notch over here. You are supposed to kind of get this notch set up right over there in the corner so you can wrap that edge. So first things first, I'm going to make sure the film is butt up against the upper hatch piece, just like that. And I am going to, just with my finger, make sure that that is down. There we go. Get a little bit more tack solution in place. Just like so. Okay, now it's good. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna come along right over here, and you can see how this, just gotta get that piece behind there. You can see how we got it nice and soapy. We can close this gap. That's good. So, I'm just pulling it back, getting some tack solution in there. And before that tack solution starts to bite, I'm just going to take and run my finger along there and get this seam closed up. Once you have it down, you just squeegee that down. There we go. Now we move over. So, because the slip solution already starts to dry, you want to pull the film back, get more slip solution behind the film. And you want to make sure that the film is gliding. Now what you want to do, just with your hand like I'm doing now, you want to start to push the air out. Air is not your friend underneath the film. You do not want that. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get this corner tacked into place. Just like so. There we go. There, perfect. Now we can keep moving over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the middle over here. You may have to lift up and readjust this bottom corner, but I'll show you guys how to do that. I'm going to come to the middle and I'm going to line the middle up. Just going to get that tacked down. Good. Now that anchor point is in place. Now that I got the middle anchored down, I'm going to come over here, kind of right near the tail light. And I want to get the film lined up here as well. You can feel it with your finger when you have the film properly lined up. Okay, there we go. That's what we want. We'll worry about making sure that this is all perfect once everything's tacked into place. Now, if you want to come around to my other side, we're going to get this side down. So same thing we did on the passenger side, we're going to do it right here. Just like so. Now, you just want to take and get this film down. You just want to massage that out just with your fingers, or with your hand, I should say. That is what we want. That's good. Okay, now we can come over here and we can start to close this gap. So what I'm going to do now is just lift the film up, and just with your finger you pull it back and you massage it into place, and you follow it up with a squeegee. There we go. That's perfect. Now we'll come along over here. Just getting a little bit of tack solution in there. There we go. Nice. Now we'll come along over here. Make sure this is all lined up. There we go. Just like so. Now, if you want to come around to my other side, there's a lot of back and forth with this rear hatch piece. Just going to pull this back, get a little bit more slip solution in it, in behind the film. right, now we're gonna try and get this all lined up. Okay, now one thing you're gonna notice right over here, we got this built up film. This initially could start to seem like, how am I gonna get rid of this? All I would do then, honestly, is come back over here to the area you've already got down, pull the film back, and stretch it into place. That'll be completely fine. If one side there's a little bit more that's wrapped over that edge than not, or than the other side, I should say. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna line this up again, but this time I'm gonna have some tension on the film to make sure that I'm not dealing with any built up excess fingers. Got that all lined up. Good. There we go. Now I can come along here. That's all lining up perfectly. There we go. So if you do see a slight gap, that's going to be completely fine. At the end of the day, the spoiler is going to cover it. And if it's clear PPF, that gap really is not noticeable, but you can get that gap to the point where it is perfectly closed and barely visible. The unfortunate thing is we do not have a one-piece PPF kit for these rear hatches. They are extremely hard to do, and they take the best of the best PPF professionals to do one of these rear hatches in one piece. We do have a video on our channel that I have done in the past of me doing this in one piece. I'll link that in the not the comments section, the description down below for you guys to check out if you're so interested. Okay, so now that the hardest part is done, let's get this film into place. Our seam is lined up. Just what we want. It's starting to lift up a bit here, which we don't want. And we'll just put that down. Now, I'm going to come line this corner up again. Just like so. That's good. Now, with a mixture of slip solution and tack solution, we'll get everything lined up over here. Always want to make sure that you've got a good amount of solution on top of the film. If you want to go to my other side, lots of finessing and stretching to get this all to line up into place. Now that I have this lined up, get my tack solution underneath there, stretch that into place. There we go. Now that we have this corner down, we have our seam up top lined up. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start taking all of the solution that's underneath the film, and I'm going to start pushing it downwards. Make sure your squeegee is angled downwards. So we're going to do one section at a time. Obviously this is already tacked into place, so I'm not going to try and force any solution through there. Always want to make sure you're overlapping squeegee strokes. We have an air pocket right there. Those you can just force out if there is enough solution underneath. There we go. Okay, that's good. Now we're going to worry about this section over here that gets wrapped. What I'm going to do, take my tack solution, pull this flap back. I'm going to flush this out. Make sure there's no soap behind there. There we go. Now I'm going to run my squeegee back and forth along that body line to make sure that there's no moisture being left behind. And then just going to do some insurance passes over it in both directions. Now what you can do, just with your thumb, you should be able to wrap that. Go back and forth. And the same with all the edges that we've been doing on this installation. You always want to come back with a heat gun, heat them up, make sure they're down. But for the sake of continuing on with this job, everything is down in good shape. Our seam is good. One thing I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my rag and I'm going to go along the seam. Just try, if there's any moisture, this rag is going to pick that up and we're going to get rid of it so we can then make sure it's nice and dry for when we come and do our post heating. So, okay, that's how you do the middle piece. Now we are going to go and we're going to do this bottom piece. Let's do the bottom of the rear hatch now. I'm going to take and spray my slip solution on the panel. There we go. Let me create my dry spot. I take my film. I'm going to stick that down there. Back roll that on. Pull the film back. I'm going to make sure I got a good amount of slip solution behind the film. We want it to be gliding freely. Now with this piece, you can see I don't have the dual motor badge. I removed that just because it's matte film and I didn't want any gloss showing at all. So if you do have a clear PPF wrap and you have the dual motor badge, your tack points, you're going to start right here. You're going to get this down, and then you would come over here and you would get the dual motor badge down. But because I don't have this dual motor badge, I'm going to start here, then I'm going to work my corners, and this piece will go on pretty quickly. So, just going to take and I'm going to line this up right where it needs to be, just like so. Squeegee that down. Okay, perfect. All right, so that's down. I'm just gonna take and squeegee everything down right above the middle there. Push that all out the top. Okay, now we're gonna come over here. We have a slight stretch to get that corner into place. Gonna get my tack solution in there. And I'm gonna stretch that into place. Hold that there for a split second. Tack that down. Then I'm gonna come over here, down to this corner. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch it just enough that this all just lays flat. Because this rear hatch is closed and Tesla has crappy panel gaps, this hatch sits further in than the bumper does. So you can see that the film's gonna have some issues there. But, just gonna get that corner down. There we go. Now we'll go over to the other side. If you want to come around. Stretch that corner into place. Tack solution is just going to hold the film in place while I get my squeegee there. We have one piece of contamination. Ah, nope, never mind. That's a dust nib. It's amazing. You pay so much money for these new Teslas and you get such garbage paint. When I say garbage, I mean they look nice, but dust nibs, hair, all kinds of stuff that are left in the clear, which unfortunately get covered up. All right. Just gonna hold that there. Perfect. Now, what I'm gonna do, pull the film back, get my tack solution right there. Squeegee that down, just like so. Good. Now we can go back to the other side and do the same thing. Okay. Now what I would do, you kind of have three sections here. You got section 1 below where the license plate's going to go, section 2 over here, section 3 there. So I'm going to start at the very top with my squeegee angled, and I'm going to take and pull everything down. Nothing's going out the sides because we've already tacked those down permanently. Before I deal with this section right over here, I'm going to get everything else down. So we're just going to come over here to the middle. So I have some contamination over here. This is from this contamination, which the camera is more than likely not going to pick up, has come from up over here where dust gets into. Unfortunately, you can do all the prep work in the world to blow it all out, and sometimes you're still going to end up having some contamination underneath the film. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my best to get it out. I'm just going to take my slip solution, spray some underneath there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, make sure there's no contamination on your hands. Just going to take and run my hand underneath it. And like a big giant fishing net, it's going to take the stuff out. Perfect. Give it a little bit more slip. Just push this air out. Now we'll come back over our area that we've already squeegeed, and we'll repeat the process, except we got more air left behind there. There we go. lift this up. Okay, now I'm going to come along this body line right here, my squeegee, and I'm going to go back and forth both ways. Make sure that there's no solution being left behind. Just like so. Now, I'm going to take my tack solution, and I'm going to flush all that slip out of there so I can get this down. There we go. Okay, now what I am going to do is I'm going to lift up the rear hatch. And I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to spray my tack solution underneath there. And then what I am going to do is I'm going to pull the hatch down. Just like so. We got these fingers over here. If you can pick those up. What I'm going to do, take my squeegee, I'm just going to hit these fingers at an angle. We do have a little bit of moisture that's left there. I'm just going to actually have to lift that up a little bit. Just, there we go. We'll get a bit of tack solution in there. And I'm going to do this at an angle with the squeegee. There we go. Now I'm going to let these edges completely dry out, and then later I'm going to come back and I'm going to wrap them. And now we're going to get on to the rear bumper.